Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Up in the Clouds. We're on episode 7 today. Today's episode is going to be a more serious one. Last one was a little bit more light. Today, we're going to do some more shadow work. So, your girl has some more shadow work to do before 2020 is over. So, there's some things we need to heal from. I just want to go in. Just have some more shadow work to do. That fun stuff. Oh my God. Well, these episodes are healing for me. So got more shadow work to do. So let's, get started. This week's episode is going to be about being a sexual assault victim. I don't really know what you want to call it. I guess I spent so many years not considering myself a victim, and I don't want to say victim. I just want to say I've been assaulted. Unfortunately, it's kind of to the point where it's like, oh, what girl hasn't, And that's really, I hate that. Let's start with some stats because I love my stats. I love just kind of sharing with you guys just to put it in a different perspective. So maybe you don't realize how common it actually is, or maybe just anything, just kind of sometimes just hearing the stats just open your eyes. So 1 in 5 women, so 18.3%, and 1 in 71 men, so 1.4, have been raped in their lifetime. 51.1% for women, it was an intimate partner, and 40.8% was by an acquaintance, so somebody they knew. For men, it was 52.4% was an acquaintance, and 15.1% was a stranger. 2 in 21, so 4.8%, men were forced to rape somebody by a perpetrator. So the perpetrator for the men that were forced to rape was either a partner or a friend, was the perpetrator. 27.2% women and 11.7% men have experienced some sort of unwanted sexual contact in their life. And 25.5 million reported have been completed or attempted rape by women, and 2.8 million for men. So, and that's just reported, there's obviously clearly ones that are unreported, or, maybe something happens with the case and it might, I don't know if the case gets dropped or charges get dropped because they get afraid of them, or if that counts still, I don't really know. But we'll just say those are the reported ones. There are unreported ones that happen probably way more and way more frequently, and those numbers are big and those numbers are awful, and it's just really sad, to be honest. So my shadow work is, I spent years not realizing I was assaulted because they were my friends or friends of friends, people I hung out with all the time. And like I said, I never, until I was in therapy, honestly, because I was talking about, my negative experiences with males and why I've always had some sort of negative, or not always, but there was a time in my life where I was going through a very negative view of men, very writing men off, not even giving anyone a chance to even speak to me, look at me, just very closed. And so I was trying to do some healing from that, and obviously not having a very loving, affectionate father is something that I've healed from, because I've realized that's just him and his, way of being. And you can't change somebody when they've been raised to be a certain way. So the first step was sort of forgiving my dad. And then I realized that there were still so many issues. Even after I had forgiven him. That's when I opened up to my therapist and talked about girls that I was friends with in high school, that it had happened to me in high school, and then it happened in college. And I never, one of them was, I was completely blacked out drunk. Like I have no recollection of it at all and would never if I was in the right state of mind. And I was very frustrated for a few years because I was still friends with that person and they would bring it up all the time. And like I said, I didn't remember it and I was repulsed that it would, even by the idea of it. And so I would just kind of like shut down whenever he would bring it up and change the subject, walk away from him, like at a party or whatever. One of the times I was having a party at my house and I went in the garage to go smoke a cigarette with some kid, and he pushed me up against my garage, and I was like, no, no, no. He knew I liked his friend too, so that was really frustrating, and was forcing me to make out with him. He was trying to go under my clothes. At that point, it was still pretty like traumatic now that I think about it, and I never let him come over to my house again after that, actually. And then that time that I was talking about that I had no recollection where he'd always bring it up, eventually I stopped hanging around him because I realized what had actually happened and that not remembering is also like not consent. Like just because I was barely conscious does not mean that that was consent. And I was sort of learning that for myself and learning that it wasn't okay. And the other time it had happened, so there's 3 times that I specifically remember. And the other time that it happened it was one of my like really good friends, and we had both been very drunk and pretty like flirty all night. And they were forcing themselves to the point where I felt like I couldn't say no or I was afraid to. And then like pushing them off of me, like telling them, please stop, like I don't feel comfortable. And I had to stop hanging out with them too for a very long time, and they were one of my really close friends. So it really sucks. It sucks when people you love, hurt you. And it was really hard for me for a while to not hang around him. And so now it's just establishing boundaries with people that I'm friends with and finding more respectable guy friends. And yeah, for a while it made me not want to be friends with any boys, to be honest, because I just felt that like I went through a phase where I was like, no boys are even friends with me because they want to be friends with me. They only want to be friends with me because they want to, bang me, and clearly would just take advantage of me, anytime they feel like they can. And I was just very frustrated. So I spent a long time like not hanging out with any boys and stuff. But now, here is where we heal from it. And like I said, I spent so long making excuses, and maybe you've had something similar happen to you where, it was a friend or someone was, an acquaintance, a friend of a friend. That person was very drunk, so you just kind of write it off and say, oh, they were drunk, it's no big deal, blah, blah, blah. And then you see them the next time, and your energy literally rejects them. You have anxiety, you feel like it all in your body, like exactly how you felt that night, and you're just replaying that trauma in your head over and over again. And the most important step is to recognize those feelings, recognize that trauma, and either confront them about what they did. And, if there's somebody you really, really want to keep in your life, you have to confront them and just say, hey, we need boundaries. That was not okay. I don't feel comfortable with you doing that. And, or it comes down to it where you just unfortunately have to cut those people out of your lives if they make you that uncomfortable. They bring both those triggers, they bring those anxieties, because it's not worth it. It's not. Like, nobody is worth it when they're bringing you trauma, pain, whatever. It's not okay. And that's like, and I think learning that is super important. I still find myself so triggered by men, and I get very defensive, and it's something that I'm working on because not all men are bad, and that's something I'm trying to rewire in my brain even now because I've had so many negative experiences with men and being at the bars and old men, young men, men my age, it doesn't matter. And then obviously having a very like absentee, affectionate father, very just cold all the time and just never, I've talked about it before. And it's just kind of learning that that's just who they are. You can't blame them, and it's instead of victimizing, it's kind of looking past it and say, I'm a survivor. This happened to me. You reflect, okay, this happened to me. What am I going to do to heal from it? And the first step to healing from anything, especially trauma brought on by another person, is forgiveness. I'm trying to think. Yeah. It's only happened to me once being in a relationship, and that was my abusive one that I've talked about before. When I dated him, he was my first like real boyfriend, and I was a virgin, so I wasn't. At that point have never done anything except for make out with a boy. So I remember he had a best friend that he spent all this time with, and the girl that best friend was dating was a promiscuous girl. Most girls are in high school. I don't want to say most girls are, but she was part of that group of girls that was promiscuous in high school, and which is fine. No judgment. I never judged her. Always liked her. Until he threatened to cheat on me with her unless I would like do stuff with him. And mind you, we had already been dating for like 3 months, and like I said, first real boyfriend, never done anything with anyone. Like waiting 3 months, in high school when you've never been with somebody is, I didn't think it was that long. Like I was like, whoa, we've been dating for 3 months. Like, I don't know. Like maybe everyone else had different experiences. For me, like, personally, I was like 3 months, like, whoa, we're not even like, we haven't even been dating that long. In my mind, that's how it felt. Maybe 3 months feels like a long time to some other people. For me personally, and then when it was like my first time having sex, I was like, no, I'm not ready. And then he was like, okay, well, we need to do other things, blah, 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 and was like peer pressuring me all the time. I'd always say, no, I'm not ready. No, I'm not ready. And oh my God, I was just about to make an excuse for him, how frustrating that was. See, we need to retrain that. So even, like I almost said, and I get that would have been frustrating. No, people need to respect you. That's what I've learned now. If you don't want to do something with somebody, nobody should force you no matter how long, especially a partner. And, for them to put like, oh, we've been dating for this long. It is your body. And I can't believe I almost just made an excuse. But we're rewiring. It's all in the process of this whole thing, And he was frustrated. And so then that's when he threatened, because I guess homegirl, like, offered to, And I was like, oh my, like I was very hurt. I cried for hours. I called my friend and I was like, oh my God, like he's literally going to cheat on me if I don't do anything with him, even though I don't feel comfortable doing anything yet. Like, what do I do? And she basically went off on him and was like, I don't even remember. Oh God. Like, I wish I remembered more. I just remember like I remember, but I don't remember like, I was obviously freaking out. I was sitting in my closet crying my eyes out like, oh my God, he's literally going to cheat on me because I don't feel comfortable doing something with him yet. Like, blah, blah, like, so stupid, so dumb. I should have ended it there, honestly, because that's where it kind of like really started. And then he came over the next night, and I was like, okay, fine, like we can do stuff, you know? And then when it came down to it, my ass like chickened out, and he screamed at me, called me a prude, you know, what all the boys do when you say you're going to do something and then you don't feel comfortable anymore. And then forced me to do things anyway. Like, he didn't have sex with me, but forced me to, you know, I don't really want to go into graphic details, but let's just say there were things that were forced that had happened. And I cried so long after he left. And I called my best friend and like told her what happened. And she went up to him to school the next day, and what she told me was that she yelled at him and made him feel horrible. I found out a few, I don't know if it was like, yeah, I would say like a few months later, they actually made fun of me for it and called me lame and called me a prude. And she said to him that I like, oh, well, maybe you should date me because I'm not a prude, blah, blah, blah. Just like weird stuff I found out months later. It sucked because, you know, she was like my best friend at the time. And she was in love with him. And so that was, you know, very a lot. And that's kind of like some shadow work I had to do with friends. I was very, you know, between like guy friends and girlfriends, I was very closed off to people. I had a lot of acquaintances, but I never like was super close with anybody, and learning to like let my guard down was like very hard, and letting people in. And there was a good like time in my life where I just didn't hang out with anybody, and if I did hang out with them, it was at a party and we would be drinking, so it was like whatever, they're just like party friends, you know. And that was due to all that like being so afraid of being hurt by a friend, you know. But that experience with him was the first time it had ever happened to me, like real first time. And that was by a partner. So as we, you know, I talked about earlier, that it's not uncommon to be forced into something sexually by a partner. It's way more common than you think, especially in this society of, you know, social media. Honestly, porn is probably one of the biggest things. You know, it's free, it's available, it's whenever they want, and that's like, it was this worry of being like a competition, you know, like always having to, which relates back to like having to always like feel like you have to impress them, always have to be like on your A game, like you need to be the hottest like girl, instead of like not even thinking like they might not even like love me, or not even that, but like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know where I'm trying to say, but so yeah, it's not uncommon for it to happen with a partner. I feel like it's way more common when it's somebody you know than somebody you don't know. Like, I feel like being assaulted, raped is extremely more likely to happen from somebody that you know over somebody you don't know. And that's just like a personal belief. I'm sure like if I did more research, it's probably like out there that like it makes sense. Like, you have a comfortability with this person, you feel safe, especially if they're your friend, especially if they're your partner, like you feel so safe with them. Like, I always like make people my home. Like, that's like a weird thing, but like, you know, I never really had like a sense of home because like I always moved around a lot as a kid. So like people kind of become my home, like my friends in this, what is the word I'm looking for? Like in that timeline of my life, like my friends, if I'm dating someone, my partner, those people like become my home in that time of my life. So, you put all of your love into that, and then they break it down by doing something like that to make you uncomfortable, to hurt you mentally, physically, and it is traumatizing, and it's something that you need to stop making excuses for those people. And honestly, I feel like not having them in your life is probably more than, having them in your life. And like I said, I spent so many years just like pushing it away and thinking that, oh, they were drunk, or I was a prude, so I deserved it. Like, you got to shift that mindset into, you don't, like, that's where it all becomes like a reflection of, like, I feel like your view of self, which is like, you did not deserve that. It does not matter how drunk they were. It does not matter that, you told him you were going to do something and then you didn't feel comfortable anymore. None of those things like make it okay at all. And I don't want to sound harsh. I'm trying to be stern, because not only am I talking to you about it, I am telling myself that too, because it's not something that's fully like healed for me either. And it's still something that I'm healing from. And yeah. So, forgiveness. That is the key to healing, especially when trauma is brought on by other people. So I kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, but I kind of want to shift into that more instead of the negativity stuff. So, healing, forgiveness. I always like to write letters to people that I never sent. That's like my biggest thing, and like biggest way to heal from things is I write letters, and I may never send them. Maybe I do. I don't know why. It's kind of always been a thing for me, even when I was like little. Like, I loved writing notes to like my friends, and then like, boys I like, and I've just always like, I'm a letter person. So, but it's also a great way to heal from it, because, if you're not going to send it, you can literally say whatever you want in this letter. You can be mean, you can be whatever, nice, I guess, if you want to be nice. I feel like if you're doing a healing letter, you're probably not going to be that nice, but yeah, so my thing that I do is I write letters. So that's the first step to, truly releasing and truly healing from trauma that's brought on by other people, is that aspect of forgiveness. So I write a letter. I say, this is what you did to hurt me. This is how I was hurt. I want, that there's no excuse for your behavior, that you did these things to me. Trying, like, so say it was your partner, all right, and you're no longer with that person. It's been years later. You sort of realize that that happened that way, and you blamed yourself for so many years. So it's like, dear blank, while we were dating, you did this to me, and it really hurt me. It really, affected me more than I thought. It was not okay. No means no. Even a relationship, you need to learn in the future to whatever you want to say. It's all your healing. It's your forgiveness. It's your whatever you want to do to heal. and just saying everything that you want to say in this letter. And then I fold it up and then I rip it up because it's sort of like the releasing, It's like, all right, throw it away. And it may sound silly. It may sound whatever you're thinking, but I promise you, it is so much more therapeutic than you think. Just like writing it out and putting it out there, putting that vibration, like releasing that hurt, that anger, that sadness, that loss, someone who was important in your life or maybe someone you were close to, like that's also a loss too, because you're losing that person, because that friendship is not going to be the same anymore. And that was something I had to learn. Like I tried to brush it off. I tried to be like, oh, whatever, the cool party girl that doesn't care about anything. And unfortunately, I have way too many feelings for that. And unfortunately, it just doesn't work that way, because your body, you can tell yourself, you can act that way. But my body was, like I said, literally rejecting these people's energies, and being around them was sending me into pure anxiety and either panic attacks or not letting my guard down, never getting too drunk around them. That instance where I was completely blacked out of my mind. It was never getting too drunk around them, faking, taking shots if we were playing games or something. And same thing with the other one that was forceful, and nothing happened, but it was that he wouldn't you don't need to know the gruesome details. I know this can be triggering for people, so I do apologize, but we're all here. This is a safe place. I just want to heal, and maybe, you are making excuses for someone right now. And maybe this is if you've stumbled across this video, maybe this is your sign that you need to release that person. And it's just not worth it. It's not. You'll find better friends, especially guy friends. You'll find guy friends that respect you. You'll find guy friends that you can let your guard down and be super drunk around, and they won't take advantage of you when you're half alive and barely conscious, and probably, I can't imagine, fun to do anything with, because you're just kind of half alive. And you can find better people. You always will. But you'll never, the one thing I've kind of realized is that you'll never find those better people until you either release those people from your life or heal from those people too. It's hand in hand. So the first step is releasing those people, and the second one is healing. So the situation that I had to move to a new apartment, my landlord had a lot of he reminded me a lot of my dad. And I was realizing that I was attracting, it started with my first relationship. He was very controlling, very sexist, very men rule, men are superior. And I don't think my dad consciously does it. I think it's more in his subconscious. It was just kind of the way he was raised, whereas there are men that do it consciously. And my old landlord was one of those men that was very consciously, men are superior. You are a woman. Women are mentally ill. Women are not responsible. He had this very mentality, So I did some self-reflecting and realized that unless I forgive the main person that caused that, I'm that vibe, I'm going to keep, it's just going to be a cycle of these coming into my life in different ways. Like, it could be a boss, it could be a manager, it could be a landlord. Like, until I forgive that primary source, then I will stop attracting those evil men all around me. So I did a lot of inner reflecting. I tried to like tell myself, this is just how my dad was raised. I can't be angry with him. I can't, I have to forgive that. I have to let go of it, because if I don't, it's just going to keep coming up in my life in different ways, and until I do. So that's when we were like, okay, we need to realize not all men are bad. Not all men want to hurt you. Not all men are out to get you. Not all men think they are superior to women. Not all men think that whatever, that they can do whatever they want to women. It's just kind of like, and I feel like I kind of need to release this about the, assault, because to be honest, until I was writing out this episode, and this is crazy that your brain does this, but when I was writing out this episode and looking at the statistics and writing everything out that I kind of wanted to talk about, like, I remembered vividly, like, with my ex, because your brain sometimes does this thing where it's like stores trauma, and it's sort of like you have the option to just forget about it. Not really necessarily forget, because then when you do, like when I'm doing this inner work, this inner shadow work, a lot of like those like memories come back. So it's like you spend so many years repressing it, pushing it away, not thinking about it. And so like bringing this inner work, this shadow work, healing work, you're bringing it all out. And the more you're thinking, the more you're remembering things, that's when these memories like come back, and they come back more vividly. I felt how I felt after he had left, and I was sitting in my room and I was feeling all those feelings that I had so many years ago. And it's so crazy to me that our brains are capable of that when it comes to trauma, that it just can really, like, literally, like, bleep, I don't want to think about you, so I'm going to push you away. And push you so far back that you have to do some real, like, digging to get to those memories, to remember those memories, and then release those memories. And yeah, so it all comes back to healing that source where it starts. You have to heal from that, like that main source of where it all began. And then you'll stop attracting those cycles, stop attracting those people into your life. And that can be with anything. It can be with friends, relationships, family, managers, landlords, whatever. It's shown up in so many different ways in my life. And then it's sort of like reflecting and thinking about trying to find good examples. So when I was doing this shadow work, I was thinking, okay, what are good male examples I have in my life of good men who are deep down just like a good person, who would never do that to one of their friends, who would never act like they're superior, like those, every little thing that I said before. And when you start to focus on good, you realize there is more good than bad, So I realized that I actually had way more men in my life who were good, who would never hurt a woman like that, who specifically would never hurt me like that. Like I was looking, thinking about guy friends also. And then you can start to name, when you're focusing on the positives, you can name more things good than bad at that point. So that was kind of like my inner, like, whoa, not all men are bad. And sort of just like, and because of that, because of healing that, I'm stopping the cycle. I'm stopping attracting. I'm letting go of that old trauma and that old person who's like dealing with that trauma, and I'm like shifting into this new person who doesn't attract people like that anymore, doesn't attract guy friends like that, doesn't attract partners that would do something like that, doesn't attract like men who remind them of her fathers in different aspects of her life, and shutting that out, because guess what? We've healed from that, baby. That's no more. That is your old self. Bye-bye. you know? And that's like the most important part. So you have somebody who done you wrong. You're going to keep bringing that, and it's going to keep showing up in your life until you heal from it. That's the one thing, the biggest thing I have learned on this journey of healing, of spirituality, of growing into this new person, this new self that I'm trying to create. That's really my true deep down self, that before all this trauma that affected me and changed me into this negative, that low vibration. And we're trying to get back to that high vibration, that person that I am deep down, that's healed from all that shit. And that's healed from, that doesn't attract those people anymore. And because of that, it's going to bring better relationships, a better self-view, a better, forgiveness is the biggest, most important thing that is underrated, because you don't necessarily realize it's, because holding on to that is holding on to negativity. It's holding on to darkness. And you're never going to be that highest version of yourself with all of that baggage. You got to let that go. You got to move. You got to forgive. You got to forgive yourself too. Not only are you forgiving those people, but you also have to forgive yourself for letting that happen, because like I went so many years like, oh, it was my fault. I probably led them on, or I was too flirty. I shouldn't have got that drunk. I shouldn't have told him I wanted to do things with him and then changed my mind. I shouldn't have been a prude. That's self. So it's like, not only do you have to forgive XYZ elemental P persons, whoever done whatever, you also have to look at person A, which is you, and tell yourself, you know what, self, I forgive you. And now we've realized it, we've recognized it, and we're going to grow from it. And we're going to not let that happen anymore. And not only are we not going to let that happen anymore, but by letting go of it, so like, you can forgive yourself, but if you don't let that go, if you don't forgive them too, it's like double-edged sword. You're going to keep attracting it. So it's not only like forgiving yourself, it's forgiving them, and it's just the combination of everything. And that's when you're going to be up here. That's when you're going to be way, way, way up there. And you're going to be the highest version of yourself. When you forgive them, you tell yourself, no more excuses. I forgive them. I forgive myself. And now we're going to let it all go. And those were all lessons. Everything is truly a lesson. Everything brings you to where you're supposed to be. Everything happens to you so that, I don't want to say like bad things happen so that you could be a good person, but bad things can still happen to you. I'm just saying that sometimes bad things happen to you for a reason, to bring you to your true life purpose. And I truly believe that even though I've gone through some shit, I've been through hell and back, I've had, I've dealt with a lot of things, and I truly believe that, like, because of all that, like, my life purpose is to do something like this, is to help other people heal from it. And that's why I've always been drawn to, like, wanting to be a counselor and stuff. And now I've been kind of, like, drawn to, like, obviously this is more therapeutic for me than even just talking to a counselor, because I'm just being completely like a 100 authentically open. And I don't have blocks or barriers where I would like sometimes get like that with therapists. I just feel like this is completely different because I'm just letting myself talk about it. Like I'm not like answering questions, like when you go to therapy, like I'm not digging on therapy. I think therapy is very healing. I think therapy is amazing. When you have the right therapist, like I'm very, very picky about my therapist. And so that's like an internal struggle for me. So it's not therapeutic for me if I don't have a good relationship, that like rapport, I think it's called, like with a therapist. And so it's very hard for me to find that. And I'm very picky. And now that I'm like, on like real insurance, I can't just be picky. So I had to come up with other ways to kind of heal myself, and that's kind of like why I've always been drawn to like psychology and like these kind of like things, because I truly believe that I've gone through everything I've gone through to help people. And that's, the basis, this whole soul behind this podcast. And that's why, I started this advice blog too. So don't forget, please, if anything, this episode brings up anything, you're feeling a certain type of way after this, and you want to talk to somebody and you don't know who to talk to, you don't feel comfortable talking to anybody else, please email me, please DM me on Instagram. I will give you my phone number. We can FaceTime. You don't necessarily feel comfortable, you can make a fake Gmail account and email me. Like I completely understand, it's hard. It's hard. Healing is a hard process, but you don't want to be this person anymore. You don't want to be this low vibrational people that's attracting these cycles over and over and bringing people in your life that things aren't like, from unhealed trauma, and it's just going to keep going and going until you release that. And then you can get over here to the high vibrational you, that highest version of yourself who is loving, who leads with love, who leads with forgiveness, who leads with happiness. Not only, do you feel better, you're just a completely different person. And I think healing is so important, and releasing is important. Like not only healing, but releasing. So yeah, if this brings up any memories, maybe you have repressed memories you don't realize, and then you start to do some inner work and thinking about it, please reach out to me. I'm here for you. I want to be here for you. Like I said, you want to send an email to my advice blog, make a fake Gmail account. It's so easy. You can literally link it to your main one, and it's completely like not, like it's linked to you to log in, but not really linked. So yeah, make a fake Gmail account, email me. It'll be in the description. You can also, there's a cool thing on the business Instagram account. So on the Up in the Clouds Instagram, you can send an email directly from there. So maybe make a fake Instagram account if you don't want to make a fake email account. Whatever you want to do, like I said, DM me, email me. I'm here for you. I want to help you heal from it too. And release those traumas so we can let go of low vibrational us and get to high vibrational us that leads with love and forgiveness and looking at it as a lesson instead of that poor me, low vibration, I deserve this. You don't deserve it. And that's like and self-worth is the biggest part of it, Yeah, so here is to healing, babies. 2020 is almost over, so let's do some healing. Let's release those bad energies. Let's release those traumas, and let's go to be in 2021 to look at as we are going to be the highest version of ourselves. Yes, let's make 2021 even more amazing. 2020, everyone says is the shittiest year of their lives. And okay, yes, as a live music person, it was very, very hard on me not going to concerts for basically the entire year. But this was a year of growth, and that's what I look at it as in every darkness there is light. And I choose the light. I choose the positives. 2020 was a year of growth for me. I don't know if I would have had it if we weren't in this pandemic, or would have had it, being under quarantine. And I, physically grew into a version of myself that I've always wanted to be. And I embodied that and I became that. And then we started this podcast. So, like, before 2020 is over, I want you to write 5 things that made 2020 awful. And then I want you to write 10 things that made 2020 awesome. Because when you look at like the more positives than negatives, you're going to realize like it wasn't as bad as you think it was. There are positives to the negatives. And before 2020 is over, you need to be like, yes, this was not as bad as a year. This isn't the worst year in the world. Like, we are learning, there's, like I said, in every positive or every negative there are positives, and I like to look, that's something high vibrational me is positive and looks at positives. So 2020 really wasn't that bad of a year. So, but let's make 2021 even better. So before 2020 is over, find your positives of 2020. Find the things you want to heal from, and then let's heal from them. If you like this video, please like, share, subscribe to my channel. If you're listening to Apple Podcasts, subscribe on the podcast. You know what to do. Rate it 5 stars if you're on Apple Music. Yeah, thanks for tuning in this week. This was a very difficult thing for me to talk about, so I'm really, glad it's over. I'm glad we're like, woo, let's go. We've done this, I did a lot of meditating and stuff before to feel comfortable doing this. So yeah, like I said, very hard to talk about. Thank you for spending time with me this week. I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your week. Hope you have a beautiful next week. Winter solstice on the 21st. So after Monday, the 21st, the days start getting longer again. So woo to that. If you're into, whatever you're into, 21st is a huge day. Manifest whatever you are wanting for the next 6 months. Think about who is me in 6 months, and then embody that person and make sure that everything that you're manifesting will come true because you're embodying that person who already has those things. So have a beautiful week. I will see you guys next week. I love you all so much. Thank you. Goodbye.